Here we go. Hello, everybody. It is today, Tuesday, the 23rd of July. My head is a little bit in a summer haze. And time zones, we've managed to find a mutually convenient time because today, as you can see, I have a guest with me. I'm really excited. I've got Renee Cooper from, hello, Renee, yeah, from South Florida. So we have a 6-hour time difference. And Renee and I connected a while ago now, a few months ago,
Yeah.
when we were part of an event called Speakers
Speaker
Summit.
connections. Yeah.
Speakers Connection, thank you. I've only been to one, and that's when I met Renee, and we connected straight away. And Renee has a company. She is a coach. She also speaks in public, and she works with authenticity, which is super important. There are so many of us today that work digitally, and to connect with an audience through a screen is not always the easiest, is not always easy, even in real life. But so Renee is here. I've invited her today to talk a little bit about what she does and her take on authenticity and about finding your voice. So, hello, Renee.
Hi, Erica. Good morning and good afternoon and good day to everyone out there. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And I'm going to dive in. Excuse me, I'm going to put on my lovely sparkly glasses and just read the
Oh,
first
please
question.
do.
Here we go. So, here's one of the first questions. How do you mentor and work with your clients in finding your voice?
Erica, it's been such an amazing journey to even get to that point. For years and years, when I was coming up in the speaking world, raising funds for nonprofit organizations, I spoke for over 15 years to massive audiences, small audiences, and such.
Hmm.
I constantly felt like I needed to be someone similar to like a Tony Robbins, right? I needed to be rah, rah, rah. Here's how your money makes a difference. Tap into your heart. Do what you need to do for your community. Rah. And you know what happened? For the first year, I would have people in my audience look away, look down, and I didn't know what was happening. I had no idea. All I knew for sure is that when you're in fundraising, goals are attached to that, and the money was not being raised. And I'll always remember this. One of my vice presidents of fundraising sat me down and said, "You know, Renee, I think you're trying to sound like someone you're not."
Hmm.
And even though it took me years and years to figure out how I'm going to share my love and passion for what I do with others to help them, that stuck with me.
Hmm.
I realized that so many people are walking around when they're giving a talk or sharing a message. They're trying to be something they are not. Why? As we know, culture, society, expectations, job roles, job functions, all delve into telling us how we should look, how we should sound, how we should say things. And then that kind of delves into how people are not tapping into who they are. So the whole essence
Hmm.
of what I do is I try to help people understand, and it doesn't matter if it's in an interview, a pitch, if it's raising money, if it's a talk, it doesn't matter. I help them understand their why.
Hmm.
And by helping them understand their why, guess what happens, Erica? We get to the very core of who they are.
Hmm. Right.
And if it's not synonymous, if the who they are is not in harmony with their why, then we start shaking the trees a little bit to determine, well, what is your why? Why do you care about this? Because so many people are chasing authenticity. Like it's something like I have to buy. Like, oh, let me go to Macy's and buy some authenticity. Or let me go, online at Amazon. Let's buy some authenticity. No, 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 no. It's something we chip away at. We uncover, we discover.
Mm.
And for so many of my clients, they had no clue what they were walking into. They're walking into just thinking, I have this talk. I have to sound, on, and I have to sound like I know what I'm talking about. Okay, fantastic. But
Mm.
as you know better than anyone else, because of your work, people see right through us. People see right through us within the first 30 seconds. Is this
Yeah.
person sincere? Are they trustworthy? Am I buying into this?
Mm.
And so, like, I get really lit up, as you can tell, on just getting people to understand it's not about the message. It's why is this message important to you? And that's
Right.
where
Well, that's great. And that actually, that brings goosebumps to me and also tears to my eyes because it's so important. And I think even for me and for you who work with this pretty much on a daily basis, it's so important to keep reminding yourself about why we do what we do. Because when you start going out there and you start posting something on social media, or you want to, I don't know, learn more as well. And you
right,
start watching somebody else, like for instance, Tony Robbins, or people like him, men and
right,
women, who are
right.
brilliant at what they do. And you think, oh wow, I want to be a bit more like that, or whatever. And then you try on that hat. And of course, as an actress, I use theater skills for presentation and speaking in public, because
Right.
for me, you can create a public speaking persona of you that you have decided that carries everything that you hold truth, and yet that has qualities that you want to enhance, like positive qualities of you, and maybe diminish the ones that you don't like so much. So yeah, but anyway, yes, we could talk. So thanks for that. I just
Absolutely. It's great.
dropped my glasses. Delving on to the second question. Okay, so what does it look like to find your voice, and how do your clients know when they have found it?
It looks a little messy sometimes because let's face it, most people are absolutely terrified, right, of sharing their voice. Even at upper levels, I find people, they're just playing the game, they're playing into the role, their title or their authority. And what it looks like, it's really an unraveling. It's a becoming. It's a
Mm.
determining what I help my clients, like I bring them back to when they were young. I don't know if you did this, like if they do this around the world, but when I work with my clients, we go back to that show and tell. And that's what they called it here in the States. You're 5 years old, you bring in your favorite item to school, you stand in a circle, and everyone shows and tells their most favorite thing. Are
Mm.
any of these kids going, oh, no, no, I don't want to show and tell? Everyone wants to show and tell. So how do I do it? I bring people to a place where they've had joy in their life. I bring them to memorable moments where they have joy. If they can remember specific times that really tap into the emotion of joy, guess what? We're helping them discover their voice. Because as you know better than anyone else as an actress, we're helping them step into the moment of experiencing that moment. And why by having the presence to be in the moment and sharing the moment, you've now invited others into your moment. And the way I do it is by sharing and educating my clients. My dog is really having a great time over here because he wants my attention, but he's not going to get it.
You should
We
bring
go
him
through,
live on camera. That would be
I should, I mean, because he's such a little actor himself. Of course, I lost my train of thought now. But the whole goal of what I do is by tapping into something joyful. We then get to see, okay, you have a speech coming up. Where is the joy in that speech? Whatever, if you're selling a widget, a lipstick, a phone, whatever, like, what is your story about it? Because we begin to uncover that stories sell and products tell. And so I help people start to craft their story about who they are, like who is their brand, meaning what is their why? Because their why is very much determining who they are.
Mm,
So if I can help a client get to see, how do you show up in the world? What are the top three things that people have said about you when you are in front of them, or how they perceive you? So, for example, I had a client who was just, she could never, ever do improvisational talks. She would get stuck, and she was just promoted to vice president. And she couldn't understand for the life of her why, when she got up to speak, if her boss asked her to speak about something specific, she would freeze, like she wouldn't know where to start.
mm,
So by helping clients tap into who they are, I'm dependable, I'm brilliant, I'm educated, I'm knowledgeable, whatever those words are, once we start pouring those words into their, it's so funny, like it sounds so weird to say this, but once we pour that into them, once they start to feel this is who they are, by understanding this is who you are, how can you not show up as that?
mm,
It's all a belief. It's
mm.
all a true belief of, yeah, for so many years in the corporate world, I was always the odd one. I was always the quirky one. And they wanted to put me into this box of the way I should do my presentations. And I never fit the box. I did it my way. And without even learning about storytelling and about the power of being yourself and who am I? And that's what I bring to my message, me,
Mm.
not my message, but me. I think that's a long-winded way of sharing with you how I get people to figure out the who they are and what their
And what
voice is.
happens when your clients discover that? What happens with them? Do they get a physical reaction within their bodies? Do they get emotional?
Yes,
All of the above.
yes. You know, in my first year of coaching clients full time, I was doing this very part time. Um, and when I started doing this full time, people would start to tell me, Renee, like, I didn't know that you were my therapist. And I would say, wait a minute, I'm not. Like, I had to literally put that in my materials. Whatever we do in our sessions, please know I'm not a certified health prof. Like, I had to, like, yes,
Yeah.
very much a physical emotion, because they've never been given the space to truly feel seen and heard, because
Mm,
everything is just I have a presentation, let me get it over with, let me get it done, and I'm out of here. And so because that's what people are carrying around with them, it's no surprise that you have so many people, even professionals at high levels, getting up in front of others, either shooting themselves down before they've even said a word, or not even knowing the power of connection within the first minute before you even say a word.
yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. That is, yes, I hear you. I thought I'm straying a bit now because it
Oh,
just
go ahead.
occurred to me we have some cultural differences, and although Sweden loves the US and there's so much of the American culture in Sweden, there's one thing that I think, and maybe this isn't true, but we are told that in the US you have that show and tell even up in the grades as you go up to, I don't know, high school and beyond. So you have this skill of presenting things, whatever it may be, a topic or a skill or whatever, so that you're more used to getting up and speaking in front of a group of, well, your class or whatever. Whereas in Sweden, we don't really have that. Excuse me, we might have it as a module in a year where we have to get up in front of our fellow students in class and present something,
Well,
a project or whatever, which, so in Sweden, people are even more hesitant to getting up and speaking in public because it's just daunting. A lot of people are really scared. But have we got that wrong then? It's because from what you're saying now, when you're working with clients, I still hear that although you might have a culture that where you get up and speak in public is more common, say, where compared to how it is in Sweden, you still don't really learn the whys behind it, what makes you tick, the joy, the who you are, your particular quirks. Is more a case of you get up and speak in public, and these are the traits that we need to see from you in order to get an A. Does that make sense? It's not really a question, it's more a query, which was not very well thought out, but hopefully you understand a little bit of
what
what I
I'm
was
hearing you
up.
say is that the whole concept of self-discovery
Mm,
is, it's just
not
quite
there.
different.
Yeah.
It's quite different between here and parts of Europe, or where you're saying in Sweden, is what I'm hearing you say, right? Like the whole
Yeah.
notion of, because writers, when you think of writers, well, what do? Like any writer, whether it's op-ed, opinion based, whether it's political based, factual, historical, whatever, news, they all have to find their voice within their content,
Mm,
as well as what they're not saying in the, what the tone of the words are saying, right?
mm,
What the pulse of the article is saying, what's not being said, what the reader digests. That's very much something that we can probably see around the world, right? Where people are using their voice in the form of writing, and that's been going on since the beginning of time, right? People using language to express,
yeah.
even when it was in symbols. So, but the whole notion of looking at the voice as an instrument, I don't think it isn't even taught here.
Right.
It's not even taught here, unless
Mm,
you're a singer, unless you're in theatrics, unless you're, an orator or whatever. But other
yeah.
than that, it's interesting what you say, because there's a lot of kids that I've seen when I taught in school, there was minimal exposure to public speaking. They didn't
Ah,
have the opportunity to really become proficient at it. And it's something that's, in some colleges, it's like, you want to, great. You don't have to. You don't have to take the class. You could take this or you could take that. So I don't know. I'm still
okay.
feeling though.
Well, no,
I'm
that
still,
answers my question a lot, and that's
does
interesting.
that answer? Does that
Yeah, it
answer?
does. It does. And it's really interesting because we, for me, obviously, this is my passion to be on stage and be on camera and whatever, and to play parts, to
Totally.
act. I'm an actress too, but I'm also very comfortable today. I'm very comfortable with just talking like Erica,
Right.
So, okay, well, moving right along. And we have touched on this already, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Why do you feel that it's so important for others to discover their true voice? And how does this serve them? And in what ways? And as I said, we have touched on it already, but you can delve
Yeah,
into
I
it
would have to
deeper.
say a couple of things. I want to share first off, I knew that I was passionate about this, but I held on to it for 20 years. 20 years of not knowing how to be of service to others. I was
Wow.
just told, you're great at this. You're great. How do I become great? I have no idea.
Mm,
So right there says to me, oh my goodness, if I had started to use my voice earlier on, how many more people could I have impacted? How would that have affected my role as a parent? Just all these questions. So what does it do? It helps people get seen in the workplace, promotions, raises, something, speaking up for yourself, setting boundaries with other people, putting a stake in the ground for what you stand for and what you will not stand for.
mm,
Being able to identify think of a situation and identify with this. When my daughter was a teenager, she was 13, my youngest, she came back from the an outing at the mall and said, "Oh, I'm so upset. We had lunch and my fries were cold and blah blah blah." And I said something to her like, "Well, did you return them?" "No, I would
Mm.
never do that." And that was such an aha moment for me because I've always stood up and I've always tried to share that with you. But in the confines of education and in her little rosy world at school, did she ever have the opportunity to learn about how to stand up for yourself? And so when my eldest started doing it more naturally, it was like, oh, thank goodness, at least one of them got the point. But my
Yeah.
goodness, so many facets of that question,
Yes.
just in terms of separating yourself from the crowd and being able to discover who am I really? Like
Yeah.
what is my what is my ultimate purpose? An example. I just recently worked with a physician, an optometrist, very successful, highly known in her field. She realized that she wanted to make the switch. It just wasn't satisfying her. Just helping people with eye issues all day wasn't satisfying her. She wanted to now treat the whole body. She wanted to help the whole person. So she started getting her certifications in holistic practices, understanding more just homeopathic things, how the whole body works, how your elbow may be affected by your spleen or whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And when we started working together, she was paralyzed by the idea that she had to share stories with these audiences. She was invited to speak at these huge events, and she cannot just speak about quantitative results and research and facts because that doesn't work in this industry. If you're treating the whole person, my goodness, you can't just spew information. For her to be able to go from being quantitative and research focused to sharing her feeling about why she's passionate about this work, that was a major shift.
Mm.
Every session was filled with tears. Every session was felt filled with, I don't know what I'm doing. And yet, I just bring her back to feeling the experience of even when she was healed by a specific homeopathic, just getting her to feel what did that feel like? Tapping into emotion and feeling is the essence of how we care about anything, why we go into selling a product, sharing an idea, sharing a message. It's all based in feeling, it's all based in conviction. But how do we get that out? Right?
Mm.
It's no different than a seed that we plant. How do we get it to grow quicker? We can have the seed, but if it isn't being watered properly and it's not growing properly, then we're disconnected. We're disconnected. So that's the
Yeah.
essence of what I do.
Wow. Oh, that's, yeah. Thank you. It's strong. These things are strong, man. The voice and it's, yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have touched on this already, but I'm going to delve into the questions. So our society and educational structures, schools, colleges, they haven't provided educational structures or opportunities for youth as well as adults to become master communicators. So what are some tips from you that our listeners here can do straight away to shift?
This is such a great question. And my answer could sound scary, but it's simple, but it's not easy.
Go.
What you can do, what people out there can do straight away is start tapping into who are you? Who are you? Like if it needs to be in a journal or record it on a voice memo, what what do you stand for? What excites you? Like start asking yourself those questions. What
Yeah.
is your what is your best memory? What made you the most happy? What's the best day you've ever had? Questions that are allowing for more self-discovery. why did I become a lawyer? What do I really care about? Is
Mm,
it about the number of cases I win, or is it about justice?
mm,
Like, what do I care about? What's important to me? What lights me up? What lies have I been telling myself? What lies have been told to me? Like, just true self-discovery. Because
yeah,
see, a lot of people go into this work and think, let me just Google some tips on how I can be better at being a communicator. Sure. What are all those tips going to tell you? I teach my clients to get grounded like a tree, stand like a tree. Yeah, you can look up all those things, but that's like the window at the department store. That's not the actual display that you're seeing. That's just like the cover up. So you can certainly search for all those tips, but really you need to dig deeper and start to answer those questions for yourself. Why am I on the path that I'm on right now? What do I want? What do I truly, not what the world and family and society tells me I should be. What do I want?
yeah,
And I really do believe that once we start to chip away at the truth and allow for quiet time for the answers to come through, and they will. But for many, it's hard to sit in judgment of ourselves. We don't
yeah.
allow. I'll always remember when I was first starting out, really convicted about this for kids. I was substituting at a high school, a middle school
Mm,
and high school. And I was told the history teacher was going to be out for 2 weeks and they needed me in that room for 2 weeks. I said, fantastic. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change these kids' lives and they're not even going to know it. I
mm,
turned that class into a governmental kind of an opportunity for them to be senators and representatives and part of the executive branch. And we did press conferences and I had them come up, every kid come up and just start talking about what their belief was on whatever, whatever, whatever.
mm.
It was
Wow.
amazing
Yeah,
because, first off, they never had the opportunity to think about something greater than themselves or to step into a role and really be it. Like,
yeah,
yes, you are the president today. And how am I going to have to be? Not to be. Who do I have to be in that moment? And from an acting perspective, without taking acting classes, I'd love to know like what that really means. But when you have to be something that
yeah,
you're not accustomed to being, you've now taken on a whole different attitude and persona and amount of confidence in yourself. It just changes the dynamic. And it was just such a profound experience to allow these kids, eighth graders, seventh graders, to start using their voice, which they've never done, you know?
wow, amazing,
And
amazing. It's just, yeah,
I I do that now with my clients. I have
yeah,
them be you just have to start with the being, I really believe,
yeah.
right?
I agree. And I think, again, to draw the parallel of the work that I do, I do similar things like you. I teach the outside that here are some skills, like here's a postural thing that you can think about. Here are some things that you can do with your hands. If you're wearing a microphone on your face, well, don't have jangly earrings, because they will interfere. They might
Got
bang
it.
against the
Right,
microphone and your hair, all of those things. And
right,
simultaneously, and I I go in depth in my course, in the digital course, or when I work one-on-one or in workshops, I have worksheets to do exactly what you've described, to ask questions, when you look at yourself and listen back, what do you see? What are your favorite
great,
memories? What makes you tick? What kind of um, public speaking favorites do you have? Why? What is it that they convey? How does that make you feel? And because for me to again share a story that I've shared a lot now, which is actually a Tony Robbins technique, and I'm sure that he's borrowed it from somebody else or altered it. This fundamental question that was life-changing for me because I suffered not just from stage fright, but stage terror. I would say no to jobs that I thought was outside of my ability. They weren't,
Same
but
here.
I believe, yeah, I believed it. And when I said yes to jobs, I would be so terrified in the moment that I could hardly breathe. And when somebody then in that moment came up to me and said, just relax, what can go wrong? It just didn't help. I didn't have the tools then to, one, disperse all of that negative energy that was eating me up from the inside. But fundamentally, I didn't have the tools and the understanding as to why I was having such a traumatic response. And it
Right.
wasn't until this exercise, which again is a simple exercise, but it can be life altering. It was for me. Question number one, whose love did you seek when you were growing up? And two, who did you
Mm,
have to be in order to get that love? And for
mm,
me, it was my
that's
mother. And
huge.
two,
Mm,
dead, right? And because I couldn't be dead, I chose the second best thing, which was to be invisible and silent. And of course, that stood in stark contrast to also having a huge desire to be an actress and to be seen and to be playful and to play all these parts. So every time I was on stage in the spotlight, it just triggered that deep, deep, deep core fear of dying. And
I love
once I got to that knot, I could start unraveling that deep, deep knot. And yeah, as I said, that was
that.
life altering for me.
That is, Erica, that is beyond. So what were your questions again that you
The first question is, whose love did you seek
did you
growing up?
seek?
Yeah, your
Okay.
mother or your father or another carer, an important carer. Whose love was it? And when you've determined that, two, who did you have to be in order to get that person's love?
Yeah, I could have a quick psychology therapy session with you right now, and this is great because this is
Right?
the truth. If I had to answer it right now, it's exactly why the trajectory of my life has taken me to where I am because
Yeah,
of, that failed relationship or that non-existent relationship. No
yeah.
question.
So we'll leave that
This
with our
is such
listeners
great,
and you can delve into that, do some
this is
homework. And our
right, totally.
final
And this is
question. Yeah,
And
sorry.
if you don't mind, Erica, I just want to
Yeah,
add one other thing because
yes.
again, that can scare a lot of people. Like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want
Yeah.
to go into self-discovery mode. I don't want to, at the very basic level, then, if that's the case, just start tapping into why is this message important?
Mm,
Why is this raise important? Why is this promotion important? Why is this relationship important? And if you're not being treated fairly or properly, or if you're just not sitting in feeling good, then you need to start questioning that. And when you're in front of people, I've noticed over the years how uncomfortable most people are when they're around other people in a
yeah.
networking session, or even when you're meeting people. Everyone is so quick to go for the jugular. Where do you live? What do you do? Like, it's just like these. And one of the things that I love teaching my clients, before you get up to speak in an interview, giving a speech, a symposium, a pitch, whatever, I train my clients in how to not speak for the first 30 seconds, how to
I,
truly allow yourself to say, you know what, I'm a human being
mm,
and I'm different than you, but we have a lot in common. And I want you to see that. And we can earn trust with others in the first 30 seconds by just taking a moment and connecting with people. Just that quick, like, hey, I see you. I see you. You see me. You see, it's just so powerful. And that alone gets my clients so emotional. Like, never done that before. That's such a vulnerable place to be.
yeah.
Yes, it is, but it's so powerful. It's
And
so
real.
powerful.
And real. Speaking of authenticity, it's real.
It's real. And
Yeah.
that to me is what is authentic. That's
Yes.
how you gain authenticity. It's again, it's not something you shop for.
No, I hear you. So our final question, what is the most important takeaway that you want to share? One final oomph before we sign off.
You know, I do believe I was in a course in the beginning of the year that was talking a lot about we're truly in a time of transformation. We are post-pandemic. We have what we are going through as in the world. I mean, it is unbelievable. And the need for people to stand up, doesn't matter what it is you're standing up for, be able to stand up powerfully in the feeling and having that self-trust is so important right now, because the world is calling for change. I really do believe that. People's eyes are being opened now as to what's needed for people to feel whole and important and valued. So this is such a good question, because I could speak about it for an hour, but I would have to say the biggest takeaway is start tapping into start tapping into that voice by just asking yourself some of those key questions.
Yes.
And if you, because so many people are walking around so miserable and not taking a stand for the things that they believe in, or not affecting change in the way they wish.
Yes, I hear you. And I think that we've been caught for so long in the grips of fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing at the right times, fear
Yes.
of being who we are at home when nobody watches us, because we think that we might not, be able to make a living or keep our jobs, and so I hear you with that loud and clear. And I agree, actually. I think it's really important. And I see all of us as onions with so many peels and different layers. And you don't
100%.
have to rip off every layer at once. But it starts with at least asking yourself if this first layer needs to stay. And then be comfortable. It can be either yes or no, right? But you have to make that choice for you, and make that
Yes.
choice consciously, and not just go along with how you've done things in the past, or how you were brought up to be or look or say or believe in, or whatever.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you said that so beautifully, better than I could.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
really.
we've spoken for a long time, and like you said, we could go on for hours, both you and I, because these are topics that we love,
We
and
love, yes, absolutely.
we might have a part two coming up, in 6 months or so to follow up. But for now, I want to say a huge thank you.
Oh, you're so
And
welcome. You're so
I hope
welcome.
that our listeners, and in the post, I will write all of your contact details and your company details as well.
Oh,
So if you
that's so
want to
nice. I
delve
so appreciate that.
into their voice even
I
more, and
so
to work with
appreciate that.
you, they know where to
Yeah,
contact you.
and and just to bottle this all up, instead of just the next time, a listener has to go out and say something, don't just dump information. Don't just get it over to get it done with. Ask a question that's going to get your audience to think for a moment, which gives you composure to find your own breath, to find your own pace, which minimizes nervousness, which allows you to get your thoughts together. Share a story. People want to be in your world with you. They are rooting for you most of the time when you're in front of them. They want you to succeed, but you need to bring them in. Bring them in with a story, a great question. Allow to, like, seeing that communication is definitely what I talk to my clients about, as a tennis match or a dance. It's not a one-way street. It needs to be organic, again, in any situation. So I hope that helps as
Yeah.
well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
I'll
inviting
see you
me.
soon. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Erica. It was a joy.
Thanks.
Lovely. Have a good day.
So I'm going to stop the recording. Here we go. Yeah. Brilliant. Boom.